Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 2 of our currency series, sponsored by Comscore.
Today we have Cara Lewis, Chief Investment and Activation Officer from Dentsu, with us to talk about an agency's perspective. Cara, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Cara, as an agency, when it comes to planning and buying media, how do you decide which currencies or metrics to focus on for your clients?
I think the biggest thing is that every client is different. And here at, Dentsu, we treat our clients with that client centricity. So it's not necessarily a one size fits all. And therefore, what we've been trying to do over the last few years is really be partners with all of the different partners that have currency and or, metrics in the market that we want to use. And therefore, we can focus on, who is the client trying to reach, focus on those KPIs, those core KPIs that we need to actually pull out in terms of what their media plan needs to solve for. And then that allows us to really get down to some of our channel selections and audience priorities. And then, what essentially is the KPI? Is it incremental reach? Is it a secondary KPI? That will help us essentially know which currency partner to use. And in some cases, campaign to campaign, it could be different for them. Most likely for a client, they will consistently kind of stick with one or two, to have obviously year over year metrics that are looking the same. But, for us, it's really kind of partnering with all of them and making the right choice on a client by client basis.
We know that walled gardens tend to measure success in their own unique ways, and their numbers often don't match up with third-party metrics or third-party providers. How do you work with those differences? How do you work through those differences? And how do you lean on, the platform's data? How do you verify it? And how do you create your own benchmarks for your clients?
There definitely is a reliancy on the walled gardens. They're obviously big players in the market. But I think, as much as we can cross-reference the data that we get with them to some of our digital-based tools, and data that we can get from some of our partners, it's the best way that we essentially can do it. I think for us, if we can use the audiences of Mercury that we have and plan and buy against those audiences, and whether we do that in a walled garden or outside of a walled garden, we can kind of look at those metrics that we know we're looking to deliver against those audiences. And that's our best way to really kind of work within the walled garden. We're also really pushing them to somehow get some sort of data back so we can actually kind of customize for our clients. Again, we're very client-centric and really deliver client by client. So working with them to somehow get some of the data peeled back. We have match rates that we can kind of look at with our Mercury data that's super strong. And so some of those walled gardens, we have really high match rates. And so that kind of helps us with the validity of the data.
You're talking about various outcomes. So it could be, reach, conversions, brand lift, or something else. What makes you decide on what outcome you pick for a particular partner and what you actually aim for when working with them?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the brief, like what was the brief that we got from the client, and what ultimately are they looking to do? Are they looking to drive conversions? Are they looking for us to show them how many sales they got out of it, or app downloads, or how many people went into a dealership? So I think it's what kind of metric and what is like the ultimate brief saying that we need to deliver on. I also think sometimes it's dependent on time of year, as well as client, because there could be like a client who for most of the year is a little bit more heavy brand. And then during key sales periods are really looking for, okay, how do I get down to brass tacks of what my sales look like? And I think they're always looking at that when there's branding, but, there's, somewhat of that balance that we're really seeing kind of happen between brand and performance.
So you're a global holding company with offices worldwide, with people worldwide. How do your tools like billing, reconciliation, and optimization software make it easier or harder to work with different media currencies?
I actually think that that's like the ultimate question that we're still asking ourselves so many years later.
Yes.
And we talk about this word all the time in Dentsu walls of interoperability, and it's interoperability with like platforms, right? It's interoperability, with our billing and pay systems, and actually really have to have those change. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not done. It's definitely tough. Most have, one basically data source or one, currency that you can plug in. And so we really do need updates to those to make the bill pay. Like I talk about this all the time with my team. My team sits on, we get the brief, we go by, we optimize, we track, we post, we deliver, and then we have to pay it. And it's just not seamless 100% because of how everything kind of comes in and what can be entered into some of the systems. So it's something that we talk about all the time, and I would love to solve for.
It's a work in progress, and together our industry will hopefully find the proper solution with the proper currencies. And luckily, when we have AdTech God on our team, we will get this done together. So
I love that.
So with new measurement methods like outcome-based or attention metrics on the rise, how do you fit all these into your respective client strategies? You have so many different client strategies, as you alluded to, and it's different for each brand, each campaign, each brief.
For us with attention, we've been at this for now, I think 7 years in terms of the attention economy. And I think we've built all of our attentive research into our tools. So that's definitely one thing, is working with our tools and working with our partners. So we can now plan and essentially activate on attentive reach. And that's huge. So I think if any campaign wanted to use attention today, we can use that on top of other KPIs or any other, outcome-based thing that we need to do. And so I think it goes back to that client centricity. And I feel like I'm repetitive with that, but we're so what each client needs, we deliver to, and really kind of sold on that model, that it is essentially dependent on the brief, but ultimately we're trying to build our tools and then Dentsu Connect to be able to house all that different information. So it's a dashboard and you can toggle on the ones that you want to include and the ones that you don't.
That's helpful. That's helpful to hear. Thank you, Cara. So what advice would you give to other brands that aren't using Dentsu, that are wrestling with the different currencies and measurement options out there? Just being towards the top of the food chain, working across so many different teams and people, would love to hear your guidance that you can give to all these other brands.
We have a team on the ground that is consistently looking at the data that we get from these different providers and from the currency and measurement providers. We're constantly, like I said, in discussion and kind of in negotiation to partner with them to make sure that we're getting the best data. So just, I think for me, to our clients of, and our brands, I would say, come to the team, ask us questions, ask us easy and hard questions. What we don't know, we don't know. And how, and I love when we get questions because I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about it that way. We all don't think the same, right? So one person might think of it different. Don't be afraid to ask it. Allow us to be a comparison point because we're doing a lot of the analysis behind the data. I think data is going to continue to just get better and stronger. We have to really, again, go back to getting it in the systems to be able to make it usable. And really looking to help identify and be objective in terms of which one will be helpful in the pursuit of your brief.
Cara, this has been great.
Cara, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you again to ComScore for sponsoring this series focused on currency. Looking forward to speaking with you soon, Cara.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks again.
Thank you.